Let me ask you something. Who were you before the trauma? Who were you before life happened to you? Who were you before everybody wanted something from you? Healing isn't just about processing the pain you feel now. It's finding your way back to who God has created before the world told you that you had to be somebody else. Reclaiming who God has called you to be. And if you can't give yourself permission to do that, you can't be free. And if you're a parent, then you can't offer it to your kids. So let's talk about it. There's some change that is expected as we grow older, as we mature, as we have experiences. There is change. We're not meant to be the same person that we were as a baby, as a kid, as a teenager. There's some evolution that needs to take place. But when God created us, He created us for a specific purpose. He created us with certain traits. He created us with certain giftings. And sometimes over time, trauma, events, just life happenings can sometimes get in the way of all those giftings and who exactly He had created us to be. Identity is huge. Knowing who we are is going to be a huge part of our confidence, first of all, especially when we are presenting ourselves to the world, if we're presenting ourselves in our businesses, in our careers, whatever it may be. If we don't actually believe who we are, then how can we expect people who we're talking to, who we are training, who are we trying to sell something to, how do we expect them to know who we are, to believe who we are? And a lot of us have had our identities warped and twisted because life just happened. And this is one of the reasons that we have to take the time to really deal with whatever trauma we would have experienced, no matter how small we think it may be, or how big it may be, and how scary it may be to address and approach. We need to take that time because identity is one of the things that can really, really be shaken up when a person goes through something. Last year, I had my mentor ask me a question. It was a simple question. He was like, "Are you an introvert or an extrovert?" And I was like, "Obviously, I'm an introvert." Like, I felt like I've been an introvert. He asked me a few other questions about the things I liked versus the things I don't like. And then just he's a person that doesn't ask generic questions. So if there's a question being asked, it has some underlying reason that I need to go and dig deeper and search for, okay, what was this question really about? What does that really mean? And after that conversation, I had further conversations with God, and it led me on this path of really truly finding who I am and who I was meant to be. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Grace for the Journey. I'm your host, Joanna, and I'm so glad to have you joining me today. Remember, this is a safe space that is created for you where we can discuss the things of life, the things that can sometimes come to try to derail us, and the great things, the positive things of life that we can celebrate. Life is definitely a journey. You can handle hard things. You are graced for your journey. And my prayer is that you will leave with a little bit more grace to get through the tough things of life today. After experiencing many things that had happened, I realized that some of my gifts and talents and likes and passions had really, 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 really become suppressed. And I was just on this journey, just chasing the bag. I put it like that. I was just really focused on business and trying to like push business and become the biggest boss babe and all of that. As I took time to really look into what was happening and really examine, explore myself, because to be honest, at the time of the question, I didn't think anything was wrong. I was like, I am who you see here. This is who I am. Like, what do you even mean by the question? But as I really dug deeper, I realized that, you talk about nature and nurture and your environment and stuff. I realized that 10 years ago, after moving and being around certain people with different characteristics, I realized that had kind of shaped what I thought success looked like. I've always been a creative person. I've always liked some form of arts. Love to dance. I love to do hair, makeup, nails, all of that kind of thing. And for some reason, somehow, I began to believe that I was no longer creative. I no longer had certain type of ideas. Any lifestyle that would have these features or these giftings was not a successful lifestyle. That success meant now getting a good corporate job or having a very successful business. I always knew that the regular 9 to 5 wasn't for me. That was just not going to cut it. But then it became all about now the husband has a good job, the wife has a good job, you put it together and you get a home, then you get a car, and you create this wonderful, stable life for your family. And somehow this version that I hadn't ever thought of before because I had never seen myself living that particular lifestyle, it became something I was chasing. And all of the creativity and all of the other gifts God had given me really had gotten suppressed because I felt that there was no way for me to use those gifts to now chase the great things of life or to create a way for my family and to create success for my family. Somehow subconsciously, and I didn't think this through, I didn't sit down and plan this out, but as I looked and dug deeper and realized that had happened somehow subconsciously. So I went on this journey to rediscover myself. And I wasn't really happy with the direction that things were going and what God was saying and where He was pulling me and what He was pulling me to do and what He was actually saying about me. And I don't need to get into all of those things, but it wasn't until after I really sat and dug deeper and pulled all these things that I really like back out and started to redo the things that I like and started to engage in who it is God has actually made me to be, that I want to say that I actually found joy, pure joy in the small things, I guess. I promise you, all the wonderful gifts that God has given you are still in you somewhere, somewhere buried in the rubble of day to day life, buried in the rubble of work stress, buried in the rubble of trying to figure it out, buried in the rubble of survival mode, whatever it is that you may be dealing with. It may have covered and covered and covered those gifts and talents. Maybe at the time you could not see how the things that felt so natural or came so natural to you, how in the world God can use them for anything, how in the world they can be beneficial to the world. And I'll use an example. There's a great speaker, and when she was younger, her she used to get reports that she just talked too much. She just talked way too much. But now she speaks for a living. She's an actress. She speaks. She has podcasts. She's a minister of the gospel. But in the early stages, it looked like, can you just stop talking? Can you just shut up? And sometimes that's how our gifting can look when we don't have it all figured out. God has a perfect plan for our lives, but we don't always have all the pieces all the time. But if we go back to that, how He made us back then, how He created us and what He created us to be, if we can really get back to that place, we can see the things that come natural. And then we get to ask Him, okay, so I'm good at this. What is this for? Why am I good at this? What should I do with this? This comes natural to me. What should I do with this? Because a lot of us are walking around like zombies, just mimicking the other person and chasing a dream that looks beautiful, but it's not a dream that's made for us. And we're not happy doing it. It's stressing us out. I'm not saying that when you work, there won't be some areas of stress, or you're not gonna love every single aspect of your job. But is what you're doing, is it fulfilling? Are you being fulfilled by it? And I'll take that. It's going to take me into the next point of sometimes we're not happy with the way God made us because we want to be like the other person. Because God, why did you make me so loud? And this person is so quiet and I'm just so loud. Why am I always so loud? And people are just looking at me because I'm just so loud. Or why am I so quiet? Nobody gives me attention. Why was nobody looking at me? Why can't I command the room like how this person just can? And though there are certain life skills that we should work on, He gives us certain skills and ability because we're going to need it in one way or the other. When we finally come to love who God has created us to be and realize that we are different people, it's a huge step. It's a very huge step on this journey of life. If He has called you to be the biggest boss babe, go and crush it. If he has called you to be with your children and stay at home, crush that too. If he has called you to be an artist, find a way to add value with art. The wonderful thing about God, he has made no person alike, but he has made us in his image and likeness. But none of us are alike. He has made none of us exactly the same. He has made all of us with unique abilities, unique giftings. And I like to look in my home. I'm really trying to teach my children how to respect other people's gifts and talents. But before we could even get there, you have to be able to appreciate your own gifts and talents. There's probably somebody looking at you with something that you have and they want to have what you have, and you're looking at it and despising it. We have to get to the point where we can trust that God knew what he was doing when he made us and created us for a particular purpose. And every single thing that we need to fulfill that purpose is in us, it's within us. So I'm really trying to help my children to understand this principle of being happy with who you are, being pleased, being you, being yourself, not trying to be like the other person. And we know peer pressure is hard. It's hard as adults, it's hard as kids. Social media makes it worse. But I'm really trying to teach them how to love yourself so much and to be happy with the way God has made you. And beyond that, allow your siblings to be themselves. They are not going to be like you. And we as adults have to also be able to allow people to be themselves. They are not going to be you. People are not going to do things the way you want them to do it all the time. People are going to see the world differently and think differently. And that's one thing with a lot of cyberbullying and hate crimes. A lot of these things happen because people cannot fathom that not everybody's gonna think the way you think, and not like it's fine, it's okay. Like it's okay. Like if all of us thought the exact same thing, if we thought same things were right and the same things were wrong, and we thought that the world would just must operate in a particular, how boring would this how boring would this world be? Allow people to be loud. Allow people to be quiet. I struggled with this a bit because I like colors. I like bright colors. My daughter prefers neutrals. And I couldn't understand for the life of me, why is a young girl this age liking such dull colors? And I would be trying to like, get this and wear this pretty color, get her these clothes, and she just would not wear it. And I just finally said, you know what? If she prefers to be neutrals, then let her wear her neutrals. I also like neutrals, but I wear brights here and there. But she refuses, and that's fine. But it took me some time because the problem was I didn't understand it because you're young. Why is an older person, in my mind, why is an older person liking brighter colors than a young person? It just didn't make sense. And the reason why was I just didn't understand. But do I need to understand? Is that something I really need to understand? And when I let her be free with that, I just know there's certain colors she's gonna go to. Black is probably gonna be one of them. I have a friend that only wears black. Only wears black. If you see in a color, it's a special occasion. But a closet is black. What is the issue? If she wants to wear black, then that's what she's comfortable in, that's what she likes. That's fine. Let people be themselves. We judge too much in this world. We're always judging the other person. And I used to do this a lot. We're always judging it. It's because we don't understand. As I started to travel, and I used to work on a cruise ship before, so meeting people from so many different cultures and realizing, you know what? The world is bigger than this 21 miles by 7 miles island that I grew up on. And so perspectives are not going to be the same. People are going to see things differently. So seeing the world has really opened my mind and allowed me to be more free with allowing people to be themselves. I don't need to conform. I don't have to like exactly what you like. I just gonna stay in my lane, but allowing people to be free. Y'all let people live. Let people be free. But getting back to the point of at home, I'm really trying to home an atmosphere where My children allow their siblings to be themselves. Listen, y'all pray for me because it's rough. It's real rough out here. God has given me three wonderful kids. Well, that are still here with me now, but they are so different. And as I watch them, I realize how it's so easy to look down on another person's interests or talent because we don't understand it. So, for example, I don't force my boys to go to my daughter's gymnastics competitions. Some of them, if we're out of town or, once in a while, come on, you're gonna go because we have to learn to support each other. But I get it. They think it's boring. My oldest son's like, why is everybody just walking around in underwear? That's how he looks at it. Um, they don't want to watch. They literally just think the sport is boring. And so if they're gonna go, I have to pick my battles. I know they're probably just gonna be on their devices, so we can have a sane moment. I really pick my battles. I'm not fighting that one, but I do tell them no. We still need to learn to support. So once in a while they have to go. And then I have my older son. He loves gaming, and my daughter she just plays once in a while, like once in a while, just for some fun. She actually thinks it's very silly to just be sitting down gaming. She feels like he's wasting his time, but he's working on his channel, he's communicating with his subscribers, and he takes it very seriously. She thinks it's the silliest thing in the world. And then I have the 7-year-old that is trying to invent things that don't need reinventing. We'll just walk in the house and we'll see like strings hanging on doorknobs and strings hanging on empty bottles and boxes torn up and color just because he's inventing something. And to him he's creating, like he if he when he gives you the explanation, like he has put thought process into it. When he starts talking about the solar system and science and rocks and minerals, I'm like, can we just talk about the body? Can we talk about how the body works, how the mind works? Can we talk about emotional healing? Can we stay in my lane? But everyone is different. Everyone is different. I say to the older ones, you don't understand why your brother likes these things. I don't even understand. I don't get why he likes space because we live on Earth. Can we stay on Earth? Why are we liking space? But someone had to like space. Someone had to do it before. If nobody ever liked space, we wouldn't have studied the solar system in school, right? So God has created each one of them different. And though you look at it and be like, this is silly what you're doing, we have to stop that. We have to stop it as kids, we have to stop it as adults. Because if we're despising a person's gifts, if we're despising a person's interests, we're despising the God in them that gave them those interests and those gifts because they didn't make themselves. They didn't create themselves that way. So in 2026, let's normalize allowing people to be who God has created them to be. If you are in a role of authority over them and you may notice that they're going in the wrong path or they need some help pulling out who God wants them to be, now that's different. But you just watching somebody who you have no control over and you just criticizing from the sideline, let's stop that. Let's stop that. But this all goes back to the fact that we have to be secure in who we are. We have to be happy with who we are and the gifts and talents we have. And first of all, we got to find them under the rubble, under the dirt, under the mess of day-to-day life, under the mess of trauma. We need to find them. When we find them, give yourself permission to just be. Give yourself permission to be who God has created you to be. Soak in that moment, soak in those moments. One of the things that I do well is I help people. I just love helping people. And I realize that every job I've had or everything I've done has been with helping people. And though I wasn't able to follow the trend as it was happening, when I look back, I'm like, oh, I really enjoy helping. When I went through that season of rediscovery and digging through the rubble, at that time, that's when God was telling me to pack up the business for now. And he wanted me to focus on my family and focus on my kids. And I was like, excuse me? Me? Do what? I have to do a whole separate episode on that because that's going to be long. But anyway, during that time, and he really wanted me to focus on the children and focus on supporting the family from within the home. And that has never, ever, ever been my desire, ever. Shout out to all the stay at home moms and shout out to all the moms doing all the things. But for me personally, it was never a desire. But as I accepted that call during this season, I realized how fulfilling it was for me to help nurture my children, to help nurture my family, to help organize the family, to make sure that everything was running smoothly and whatever else I need to do. How fulfilling it was to help them succeed and for them to achieve their goals. And I realized that this was something I would not have been able to do had I not accepted that role and accepted that gift of nurturing, accepted that gift of helping. I wouldn't have been able to enjoy. I would not have been able to see them fulfilled. I would not have been able to help them find their areas of calling and help them find what they're good at and their interests because I hadn't accepted it myself. And if I hadn't taken a step back and if I hadn't taken the time to even dig deeper and find those gifts and find those hidden talents and find whatever was under that rubble, we would have just all been a mess right now. I would have still been running helter skelter, chasing this, chasing that, burnt out in survival mode. No one's getting anywhere. No one's getting anything done. Nothing is being successful. Nothing is being achieved. One of the things that can happen if we refuse to take that step of rediscovery is we can now project those things onto our own children as we begin to parent. If we are still having issues with who people are, if we are still having issues with people not being who we think they should be and people not doing things the way that we think that they should do it. And I'm talking about people that are not, they not our responsibility, just random people in the world. If we're spending so much time criticizing them and having issues with that, how much more our children? God created his children. We are stewards of his children. He created them to be who he wants them to be, not who we as parents force them to be. That's a whole topic for a whole nother day. But anyway, sometimes we can project our feelings and our emotions and our idea of the world. And sometimes we can project this onto them more than we need to. Yes, we are here to influence them. We are here to steer them in the right direction. But we are not here to choose their life's path. That is God's job. We are here to help guide them along the way. And as parents, I must admit, sometimes that can be extremely, extremely, extremely difficult to give up and be like, you know, God, I surrender these children to you because I can't do it. I can't do it. And you know how you created them, and just help me to help them. It takes a lot to get to that point, but that is where we need to be able to get to. Because in the same way we can be judging others, and like I explained, my children, they judging their siblings, we can also judge them. So if, God forbid, they have a career path that seems crazy to us. Now, it's our job to also know what God is saying about them. If they're just going way off, if this is not what God has said, then obviously we need to be in prayer about that and we need to hone them back in. But I'm just talking about there's some parents who just want a particular lifestyle for their children because either they couldn't have it themselves and they're trying to live through them, or because they think this is what is good. They think it's prestigious. I think we're getting out of those times where the only prestigious jobs out there were to be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, and that kind of thing, to be something corporate. I'm hoping that parents are now realizing that there's way more opportunities in many, many different fields. And at the end of the day, the goal is for your child to be in their area of calling and to be where God has asked them to be. I can tell you from experience, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, being in the wrong calling at the wrong time, because that could be a right calling, but it's the wrong time for the calling. Listen, there's no better place to be than where God wants us to be. And there's no better thing to do than the thing we have been naturally gifted and created to do. Yes, we're going to work at our craft. Yes, we're going to hone it. Yes, we're going to get better at it. But doing what he has called us to do and then shifting when he says, now shift, is the best place to be. That's the best way we could raise our children. But taking that first step of redefining who I was and accepting it, and now being able to parent it and help my children to walk into that has been extremely, extremely, extremely fulfilling. So whatever that looks like for you, that may look completely different for you, but be okay with whatever it is that comes up when you start to dig deeper, when you start to remember your childhood, when you start to remember the things that made you laugh, made you smile, that gave you joy as a kid, the things that had shifted when life started to happen. Just be open to change. It may be big change, it may be small change. It may just mean picking up a hobby, it may mean a career change. But be open to finding who God had created you to be. In Jeremiah 1:5 is where God is telling Jeremiah, he said, I knew who you were before you were formed in your mother's womb. So he knew who he created us to be. He knew what he was forming. We didn't know. We had no choice. We had no say. We didn't create ourselves. And in Jeremiah 29:11, that's when God says that he knows the plans that he has for us. So he knew who he created us to be before we were even formed. And he knows the plans that he has for us. So for me, there's many areas of healing and there's many ways you can do it. But I feel like healing alongside God is the best way you can do it. It's one of the best ways you can do it. There's other modalities and secular healing modalities that you can take advantage of that will work. But when we talk about identity and going back to who God has called us to be, doing it with God, it's just such a beautiful thing to be able to walk into your destiny and be fulfilled, to be able to live life in a fulfilled way, not just burnt out. It's such a beautiful thing. So I'm going to encourage you to just take some time and really search, am I being fulfilled? Am I operating as the person who God has called me to be? Or am I walking around as a shadow of somebody else or just mimicking somebody else because it looks good from the outside? Trust me, God knew what he was doing and he has so many big plans for many of us. So that's my encouragement for you today. And as we heal, as we rediscover our true selves, we're going to be able to parent better and help our kids discover who they are called to be. So they don't have to be healing from all the trauma like what we had to do back then. We're creating healthy, emotionally healthy children because they're not going to be children forever. They're going to grow up and to be adults and to be citizens of this world. All right, so that's all I have for you today. So whatever you're doing, whatever you need to conquer, go out there and conquer it. And remember, you can handle it. You have capacity. You can handle big things. You can do hard things, and you are graced for your journey. Bye for now.